Hi, everyone. This is Sebastian Traeger, Managing Director of Reliability.com, and welcome back to another episode of Reliability 4.0. As always, we're on a mission to make the world a more reliable place. And today we are joined by Drew Allen, the CEO of Grace Technologies in Davenport, Iowa. We're really excited to have you, Drew. Thank you for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Sebastian. Really looking forward to discussing all the reliability things with you.
Well, great. Well, tell us a little bit about your company, anything you want to share about how you lead the business.
So Grace started back in 91 actually as a Rockwell system integrator and did a lot of projects. The product side of the business spun out of that system integration business. And we actually, as a family, we exited that business back in 98. So we really started focusing on solutions that would keep workers safe as well as preventing unplanned downtime. And, we have 5 different product lines that we go to market with right now. One is our Grace Port. We have a line of permanent electrical safety devices under our Grace PESD brand. We have our IIoT and condition monitoring offerings in our Grace Sense offering, as well as we have a new wearable voltage detector band, Proxy, and we also have a thermal electric generator product called Perpetua. So we have a lot of very interesting kind of pieces of technology, but they really focus on making maintenance safer, smarter, and more productive. And that's really what we're trying to accomplish. I came into the business. So after college, I moved to Hong Kong. I worked in Hong Kong for 3.5 years doing business development for 3M. And then unfortunately, my mom had a health issue. And so it was time to kind of move home. And I actually took over the international side of our business. And that gave me an incredible kind of vantage point to see how the best companies in the world do automation and reliability and safety. I got to tour around pretty much every type of industrial factory and process you could imagine, everything from oil and gas and metals and mining to food and bev to consumer packaged goods to aerospace and everything kind of in between.
That's great. I was curious, what sector or industries does your business mainly work with?
So I would say the only sector that we don't actively work with would be like commercial. Okay. So as you get kind of close to commercial, I would say you have data centers, distribution centers, universities, and hospitals. We do work with a lot of those folks. But then as we kind of go down the more industrial path, like I was saying, basically all the major industrial verticals are focuses of ours. Okay. So, water, wastewater, petrochem, oil, food and bev, pharma, the list is vast.
Well, I want to dive more into your products and what you all do, but before that, just a couple things. 2 questions. 1, the most interesting part about living in Hong Kong, and 2, just tell us a little bit about what you like to do outside of work.
Yeah, so the most interesting part of living in Hong Kong is the ability to just travel easily all over Asia. I think Hong Kong is one of the greatest cities in the world, and it's just incredibly vibrant. There's always something going on. One of the things I loved about Hong Kong, not maybe the most interesting, but it was the fact that you could be like in this thriving metropolis and at the beach in 20 minutes. And most people don't actually think that Hong Kong and beach are go hand in hand, but that it's really quite an incredible lifestyle. What do I like to do for fun? So I've got 2 kids. And they're in the fun age now, but I am the hippie festival going CEO as well. Nice. I do love a good music festival, kind of partial to indie. My favorite artist currently is Noah Khan. So I found him before he was cool, though. I'm just going to put that out there.
Nice. Yeah, that's I've been introduced to him. What was your festival this summer? Did you make it to any?
I went to a absolutely ridiculous emo festival in Kansas City called Not Just a Phase. I think we all got hearing damage left over from that festival. So nice. It was not an indie festival.
Fun. Well, that's great. I'm sure I'd love to talk to you more about music. I got to go to, oh my goodness, I cannot believe it. I went to a concert in London in Hyde Park this summer that was festival-like, and it was a guy in the Noah Khan genre. I cannot believe I'm blanking on it.
Actually, that was in July, right?
Yeah. The one we went to was a little bit earlier. It was All Night Revival. Oh my goodness, I cannot believe I'm blanking.
Oh, Zach Bryan. You went to the Zach Bryan show.
Exactly. I went to the Zach Bryan show.
We were in London in July actually as well. We were there for a show opening, and I ran into people who went to the concert, and I was like, I know we landed too late. I was so upset.
It was amazing. Anyway, back to what we came here to talk about. So you've got a lot going on, and what I want to understand is for your clients who are kind of buying your solutions. I think it's really helpful to understand and really help people. Like one of the things we try to do is help people build a business case for building some of the products that we sell. I know that's probably a big part of your business as well, helping your partners understand the value that they're getting. How do you talk to them about their KPIs and a business case for buying your products?
Yeah. So first, I want to say that I think that the selection criteria has to be kind of high. If you have to completely build the business case for your customer, that means you actually have to totally transform the way that they are operating their business. And that's a large ask for someone who should just be supplying some technology to them, right? And we have bitten off projects where maybe a manager saw some potential in our solution, but there wasn't really any work culture or accountability that was going to lead to success for that offering. So first, you want to make sure that you have a partner and a customer who has at least somewhat of the similar mindset and the way to view things, right? And so you want folks who are really interested at getting into the root cause, who meticulously measure their downtime, who meticulously measure safety. You want factories that look somewhat clean and have, organization, because if they don't, everything else is a mess. I mean, it's kind of like a dirty bathroom in a restaurant, right? You have to have at least base level systems and processes in place before you even start making a business case. Once you start talking to them about the business case, I think that really the first step of most of that business case work starts with a criticality assessment. And that criticality assessment can really determine what your optimal maintenance strategy needs to be for your equipment, because everyone wants to sell you on, T offering that's going to prevent it. But the thing is that for a light bulb, that's not the optimum maintenance strategy. The optimum maintenance strategy is either going to be some sort of, well, we just know that this light's on for, 3,600 hours. And so I'm just going to set an alarm that every 3,600 hours, we're going to replace it. Or when it burns out, I'll just let it run to failure, and that's fine, right? That might be the most optimal maintenance strategy. But that's not the case when you're talking about a huge compressor in an oil and gas facility.
Yeah.
And so really, I think that criticality assessment starts to allow you to make some decisions. The other thing that we found, not hopefully giving up all of our secrets, is that when you are doing an IIoT deployment in a facility, oftentimes folks want to put vibration monitoring or whatever other monitoring system on the most critical equipment, but you don't want to put it on the most critical equipment. You want to put it on the most problematic equipment, because even a small win is a win. And so that really helps get support from management team and from the finance teams and everyone else that, oh, hey, we actually have some proof in the pudding. Because if you have a critical asset and you start doing condition monitoring on a critical asset, if that critical asset was failing repeatedly all the time, that company is probably not going to be in business.
Yeah. So that's great.
I don't know what's been your experience, but
two things I drew from that I think were really great. I mean, you said a lot, but one, just getting quick wins as part of a deployment, always essential. So you're not trying to, hey, we're going to deliver in 5 years and just keep waiting, but like, hey, let's get quick wins. The second thing I thought you said that was really interesting that I hadn't really thought of is, it sounds like you're almost saying, hey, if you don't have your house in order, I don't know if like the value is going to be there for our solutions, because there's so many other things not working or just not organized that you might not see the benefits. So that's a really interesting idea, is that almost engaging somebody and saying, hey, let's talk first about how ready you are to accept this solution and actually get the most value out of it. If you are, then we can probably bring a lot of benefit to you.
Yeah, there was I think, was it Peter Drucker said, culture eats strategy for breakfast. I can tell you, I've been in facilities all over the world, and, some of the facilities that you think would be the best really aren't. You walk around and all their cabinet doors are open and there's grease on the floors, and it leads to a lot of cost. It leads to a lot of cost. All of a sudden panels are overheating and, or components are getting fried because they're covered in dust and grease and grime. You have to have some level of conscientious leadership and discipline in a facility for anything to work appropriately, especially when you're talking about a monitoring system. The thing is that a monitoring system is not the control system. When something goes wrong or it's not alerted or you don't follow through the alerts on the control system, the process shuts down, right? In a monitoring system, the process doesn't shut down. It's going to fail down the road.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. So one of the things I know you guys, even having 5 product lines, that clearly you've got a lot of innovation happening. I'm really curious about the wearable that you described. What is that, and what's the purpose of it, and how did you guys develop it or partner to create it?
Yeah, so the wearable is called Proxy. And so It lights up, beeps, but most importantly, vibrates. You wear it on your wrist. And so as you open up a control cabinet or an MCC bucket or any sort of power distribution equipment, as you start to get close, if there is still an electric field inside that gear, so something that gets switched off properly, it will start to vibrate, beep, and alarm at you. It also connects up to an app, so you have kind of adjustable voltage settings. And so if you are in an area where there should be energy, you can also go ahead and mute it. And then all that data is optionally fed up to a cloud database. And so health and safety managers can really do a risk-based approach for ensuring training and better compliance. One thing we like to coach is that just because someone is maybe having the most amounts of alerts or alarms, that doesn't mean that they're doing something incorrectly. It just likely means that they're one of the higher risk employees. So for instance, if you're a cardiac surgeon at Mayo Clinic, your death rate is probably a little bit higher than if you're the pediatrician at the local pediatrician group, right? And so if you're sending that guy in, but what that means is, okay, we need to make sure his training is super up to date. Maybe instead of doing a PPE inspection every year, let's do it every 3 months. Let's make sure that, we sit down with him on a regular basis and review his work practices. Let's make him as safe as possible instead of, you can't be in this chastisement environment anymore. It just doesn't work, right? So we found this product while we were at the electrical safety workshop, and we ended up doing an equity investment into the company and took over the exclusive distribution rights for it. And the company's name is Proxy. They've been out of Vancouver. And so I really applaud Campbell and Richard and all the work that they've done on this product, because I think it's a game changer for electricians as well as technical service teams that, like HVAC technicians and those kinds of things.
So I'm just thinking, again, I don't know that field clearly as well as you do, but just at a basic level, just thinking, wow, if you have a tool that's vibrating on your wrist, alerting you as you're getting close to danger, it's like, when your car's backing up and it's beeping because you're about to hit something. That's a really nice feature to have in a car. Even better when your life is potentially at stake, right? To know that there's that you're not walking into a difficult situation.
I'll tell you kind of a quick case study about that. One of our customers, Tri-City Electric, they're a top 10 or 20 electrical contractor, actually based out of Iowa. They do a ton of data center work. They were a very early pilot adopter of this technology. They went ahead and ran a pilot. They had 3 near misses in the first 3 months. On that third near miss, the guy had just come out of his apprenticeship program, young family at home. It goes off. He thought that this 480 volt circuit breaker was off. It was not. He went up to his boss just bawling of like, hey, this thing saves his life, right? Wow. And unfortunately, a couple of weeks after that, there was a 4th incident, and the guy ended up getting shocked on 480. I can't remember the specifics of it, but he ended up having to go spend the night in the hospital. He is okay. And they were doing the investigation into what happened, and he left his Proxy band in the truck that day. So they did a full stand down meeting with the ownership of the electrical contractor, the union, the whole thing, and he said, and so the owner was talking and going, hey, you guys, you really need to be wearing these. We're trying to invest in your safety, yada, yada. And some of the gentlemen, weren't as apt to try new things. The union boss got up there and was like, no, look, this would not have happened to this guy yesterday if he would have been wearing this. So you guys will be wearing these every single day that you're on the job site. Really great to have kind of a partnership between the union and the ownership to keep these folks safe.
That's great anecdote, great story of that. I think I can just see the obvious value, but then you tell those stories and it's a guy with a young family obviously doesn't want like a small mistake. One of the things you mentioned in kind of explaining companies you work with is kind of have a root cause process. That's what we do as a business, root cause analysis. So I am curious, in the customers you work with in the fields, how do you see root cause analysis being valuable to the companies that you're working with?
Yeah, so I'm a big believer in the 5 whys.
Okay.
Okay, so that's like my general principle, like usually for operating my own business. But when we're working with our customers, honestly, let's say a bearing issue is indicative of some other problem, right? That happened before. And so really going all the way back, because usually what ends up happening is oftentimes there might be even something wrong in the system design. And we're oftentimes trying to get something that we can trace back to how the system should be kind of redesigned or amplified to improve it. There was a install we did over the summer on a bunch of agitators for like liquid feed company for like agricultural something or another. And they kept on having these agitators fail. And we noticed when we were looking at the vibration signatures that there was a ton of vibration energy during startup. And so our engineers started kind of investigating and going, well, do you guys have any soft starters or drives on that equipment? No, they did not. So all of a sudden they're getting all this inrush current. It's causing all sorts of very early startup vibration that's causing issues. And then as well as if they started up and the tank levels were not within kind of the optimization point, it also led to additional vibration that was causing issues on those agitators. And so, by retrofitting some drives or some soft starters, as well as running a check before they started to make sure that the tank levels were correct, we believe that should be dramatically extending the life of their agitators. Just providing tools that allow you to start asking, well, why are we seeing these things at this point in time?
So did your company actually help them do that, like kind of problem solve that? Or was it more like, hey, you guys should problem solve this?
We have a customer success team that, we try to do after we do an install, we do quite a few data reviews. We don't do it full-time consulting.
Right.
We're just trying to help them get some value from our system, but we got a crack team, so they're probably doing a little bit more than we advertise for.
Great. That's good. Well, Drew, I've loved talking to you. Usually I kind of ask one final question related to technology or the space, but I just, looking at your company, I know you guys have won some Best Place to Work awards. You're obviously the leader of the team. I would love you just to share just generally how folks who might be listening to this, who lead teams or lead companies, what are some of the things that you feel like you've done to put good culture in place? And what mechanisms how do you do that?
Yeah. So one thing is that your ability to lead people is largely determined by your ability to lead yourself. If you're not disciplined, your team's not going to be disciplined. If you are sloppy, your team is going to be sloppy. And so the first step of leadership is you have to go on your own personal development journey. Number two is when you start thinking about culture, be very purposeful in the kind of culture that you want to build and why is it right for your organization in that way. The culture that we lead at Grace is one of risk-taking and speed. That may not be the right culture at a automotive facility. Okay. So we're very purposeful. The other thing is that people want to come and they want to make an impact and they want to be around people who excite them. And so if you're not hiring people who really excite and others want to be around, it's not a good recipe for success. I think the other thing is that you want to hire fully fledged adults that are autonomous and responsible. You don't want to be babysitting. And so you want to find people and incentivize those people to act as if they were owners in the company. And I guess that's my little piece of wisdom.
That's great. I mean, that's amazing. You just did that right off the cuff. I am curious on the culture of risk and speed. How do you kind of build incentives or mechanisms to encourage that?
For speed, we're constantly pushing the envelope on prototyping. Right. And so we want to go from we just did a product, actually. We finalized the scope in February. We had our beta units for install the first week of June. But we also have a whole electrical safety product line, right? So it's like, well, how do you do speed and safety? The thing is that you do speed very early, and during the testing phase, you go slow. And then we also have UL. So all of our products go through Underwriters Laboratory. And so we have a third party check our work, basically. And that really, we think that kind of the combination of that really makes our product super robust. And, one of our voltage indicator units, that SKU, we have one failure in every 50 million hours of operation.
Wow.
So
it's amazing.
I mean, we figured out something right in that realm. I think speed though is super important, and you got to be iterating. You got to be iterating, have a product roadmap. Yeah.
That's good. I like even how you just said, hey, we're really fast at first, but then we know which part we have to slow down. I think a lot of entrepreneurial thinkers are like just always going fast. So it's pretty interesting to hear like, oh, actually, let's go fast in this section, but then let's make sure it's reliable and safe in this next phase, because at the end of the day, if a product's failing, it's going to be more of a headache in the long run. So it's good.
And not all products are equal, and your tolerances have to be different depending on what the product is. But each company needs to find their risk tolerance.
I wish I could have captured off memory everything you just outlined on building that culture, but we'll definitely highlight that when we put this podcast out so people can read it a little bit more carefully and learn from you. Well, it's been great talking to you, Drew. Thank you so much for the time. We really do appreciate it. And to all listeners, we're about helping really the reliability industry and anybody who's working in maintenance takes steps to being successful at using technology, at innovating, and at making things happen. So if you're looking, of course, for RCA training or software, check out reliability.com or easyrca.com. Definitely check out Grace Technologies if you're looking for tools and services to make your plant and your facilities more safe. They've got a whole suite of services to do that. And that is all the time we have for today. Again, Drew, thank you so much for your time. And we appreciate you joining us and helping others make the world a more reliable place. So we'll see you all on the next episode.